Rachel's behind the camera. We're making sauerkraut today from our cabbage, and we just thought we'd share our process a little bit with you. Sauerkraut is so easy to make. It doesn't take too much to do, so we thought we'd show you. So what we have going on here is we have some really large cabbage, and I don't think this one's even as big as the one I'm cutting up. These are Dutch flathead cabbage, if I remember right. They're pretty good keepers. We have some others, and I'll show you how we're going to store them whole down in our root cellar basement another time. But some of these we are turning into sauerkraut, and then this winter we'll eat it with our meats because the fermented foods actually have enzymes that help you digest your meat. And traditionally, they would never eat meat without a fermented food of some sort, whether it's pickles or sauerkraut or whatever. It's a huge digestive aid for digesting the heavier meats. So what I did here is half the cabbage. I sliced it real thin. If you have the great good fortune to have a mandolin, which I do have, it slices it thin and it's really easy to use. But we decided that we like them just a little thicker and chunkier, so I'm just using a knife. It's so big. I cut it in half first, and then I'm going to cut the core out. And then I just sliced it. Okay, I had to go wash it because, you know, garden produce, there's real life out there. So we had to clean it up a little bit. I'm just going to slice it, kind of like shaving it. And just keep on going until I get to the end of this. Got it all cut up. Over the half, this will help as I mix it. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, roughly, of salt. And this is, mind you, not a formal recipe. Sauerkraut is essentially fermented cabbage, and I'm just adding some touches of things that I like. And you can do it with other vegetables. We're going to throw some other vegetables in. This is juniper berries. I just kind of like the flavor of them. I'd add caraway, but we already made one recipe and I emptied my bottle. Made me very sad. Okay. And then Rachel sliced up some ginger. I'm going to throw that in. These are all just flavors I like and spices that I enjoy. So gives it a little more flavor. I'm going to add this now. I make kimchi too, and that calls for fish sauce, and I like the flavor of it, so I've been adding it to my sauerkraut. That's why I say pretty much sauerkraut, when you have the cabbage and the salt, everything else is sort of a bonus and what you like. So this is the Jill version of sauerkraut, but it'll give you the basic idea. Okay, now I'm going to add the rest of the cabbage. I'm going to salt it and beat it to break the fibers down a little bit before I add the other things, just to get the cabbage started. I am roughly measuring because you can make it too salty, and if you don't have enough salt, it won't preserve well. So for that large a head of cabbage, I use about 4 tablespoons of salt. This is the part the boys always like to help with. Beating the cabbage. This will start making juice on the bottom, and we'll kind of stir it through. And the juice is very important to the finished product. Okay, there's our start to the kimchi, or to the sauerkraut, excuse me. All right, I'm going to add some daikon radishes. We have lots of banana peppers and a couple of jalapenos. They got hit with the weed whacker yesterday, so we'll trim them up and throw those in there for a little heat. And Rachel thinned a few carrots out of the garden. So we're going to throw all of these in on top and then mix it. Okay, we're back a few days later. I kept the pot in the refrigerator. You can see it's got quite a bit of liquid in it. So what I'm doing right now is just filling these jars. And I tried using the spoon, but then it just really fell all over, so it works better using my hand. Then I'll rinse the outside of the jar. Okay, once I get it mostly full, I'm going to press it down a little bit. And you can see, if you oops, the edge of the jar there, how the liquid kind of comes up. And now I've got room to add some more. We'll make sure before we're all done that it is totally submerged, because that's what makes a seal. Anything that comes up above the water level is an opportunity, it's a place for it to decompose. Because bacterial action requires oxygen. And if it's underwater, it doesn't have oxygen. So that's our goal, is to have everything submerged. Okay, so I got the jars filled. I got all the sauerkraut in there. The next thing is to make sure we've got water covering them. Sometimes I've crushed the cabbage enough that it makes enough juice, and so we're going to pour the juice over them. I have glass weights here that I got on Amazon that I really like. I didn't used to use them, and it works. I can do without them, but it makes the job a lot easier. Okay, now I'm going to add liquid. And we'll see where we end up. You'll notice that I have the jar sitting in a pan. This is because I'm going to let it set for a few days. And in the process of letting that fermentation happen, it can overflow the jars a little bit. So I'm just going to cap them loosely for now. And then, okay, I've got stuff. And then it can overflow into the pan instead of all over my counter. Because I've let it do that before too. Okay. That one's pretty good. I'm going to reset this glass. Because some stuff that was in the juice yet came down. There. Okay, so you can see I've got the sauerkraut down below the level of the liquid in most of these jars. And that worked out pretty good with just the juice from the cabbage. I made some salt water here using kosher salt. I'm going to just add a little bit more to these. If you add plain water, remember that salt is one of the preserving agents. You can dilute it, and I've had sauerkraut go bad before. So you want it to have just a bit of salt in it. And this one is a jar that we'll probably use first because the sauerkraut didn't fill it up, and so it's not going to be, even though it has a weight in it, there's going to be floaties on top. That's okay. All right. One of the other things I've learned over the years is that these lids are really wonderful for these jars until I go to store them. Once the fermentation is done, in, like 3 to 5 days, when I go to store them, I need to put a canning lid in. Otherwise, the water gets out around this and it'll keep evaporating out. And then I just add a little more salt water. So it's a really easy solution. I just have to babysit them more. If I put a canning lid in, then it's sealed and it's good to go once it's all fermented, and I put it in storage and it's just great. So I'm going to go ahead, loosely cap these. You can get neat little water things that go on the top. I don't have them, so I don't use them. So you can do it fancy, you can do it simple. These are just some really, this is kind of like the basic home way to do it. Make sure it's submerged. Let it sit for a few days on your counter, and then it can go into storage. You don't have to heat treat it, can it, hot water bath it, or anything. In fact, if you do that, you will kill the enzymes that are in there that are the beneficials that you want. So there you go. Sauerkraut, it's that easy. Let us know how yours turns out. We'd love to hear your success stories or your not success stories, because like I said, I have learned the hard way. I have lost a lot of batches and jars of sauerkraut to this and that, and so that's why I'm sharing it. You can learn from my mistakes, and I'd love to hear how it works for you.